Hi friends, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Here's what we're discussing today. A major issue has arisen in the Alec Baldwin case involving some rounds that were given by Seth Kinney to the CSI. My understanding is that these rounds, live rounds, were done and used in a training session essentially to teach the extras who were also going to be shooting firearms in this movie what the feel of recoil is like when a live bullet goes out the end of a gun. Obviously, you don't have recoil from a blank because it's not pushing anything out the barrel. So these have just almost no relevance whatsoever to the issue in the case about Baldwin's negligence, but they weren't, I guess, properly disclosed, or the defense seems to think that they weren't properly disclosed. So what's happening here is the state is going to get to put on its case, it looks like. Let's take a look now at some of the argument.
Yes, thank you. So November 1st, 2021, Seth Kinney is on a phone call with Corporal Hancock. At that point, we've heard about Seth Kinney's involvement in this, his effort to pry into what's going on with the prop card and the bullets. And so on that phone call, he's telling Corporal Hancock, then Detective Hancock, that he believes he knows where the live bullet came from. He dials in a guy named Teskey, who we heard about yesterday in testimony. Teskey gets on the line and Seth says, "Tell Detective Hancock what you know." And he says, well, Fel Reed dropped off a batch of live ammunition at my business because I have a safer place to store it. And after that, Fel shows up, grabs some of the live ammunition, and leaves some behind. And that's what I know. And Seth says, well, that could be from the same batch that killed Helena Hutchins. Could be a match. He says, and it's Fel Reed, and it's Hannah Gutierrez Reed. That's the one who's responsible here, pushing it off on Gutierrez Reed as the source of the live ammunition, just as the state has done in this case. He says, thank you very much. He gets off the phone. Fel says, Teskey says, I'll take a picture. I'm not in front of my computer, not in front of my ammunition. I'll send it in an hour. He sends a picture of 4 bullets. Ms. Morrissey is going to hold that up to you and say, these are the 4 bullets you knew about this. That was from 2021. Detective Hancock does not preserve the other live ammunition that's at Teskey's property, even though he told her this could be from the live ammunition batch that matches the bullet that killed Helena Hutchins.
Okay, so that's the defense's perspective. You know, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They didn't secure these rounds. They didn't get everything they should have gotten. The world is ending, dogs and cats living together, you know, fill all of that in. The question is, how did they know all of this? And we'll get to that in a little bit. But right now, let's listen to the explanation that's going to come in from Ms. Morrissey about all of this.
Your Honor, there have been absolutely no violations of our obligations as prosecutors. I want to walk you through everything that has occurred in this regard, everything that these defense attorneys knew well before today, and everything that was also disclosed to Ms. Gutierrez's counsel. So, what you can see from the transcript of Mr. Teskey's interview during the Gutierrez case prior to her trial is that Mr. Teskey is Fel Reed's close friend. And Mr. Teskey stores Mr. Reed's ammunition. And the reason that he stores it for Mr. Reed is because Mr. Reed lives in a single-wide mobile home that doesn't have a lot of security, and because he's a professional armorer, he has a bunch of guns and ammunition. Mr. Teskey is a retired police officer who has a whole bunch of security at his property. So, Fel Reed has 300 rounds of live .45 caliber ammunition. And he and Seth Kinney are hired by the producers for the show 1883. Everything that I want you to know, Your Honor, everything that I'm telling the court, Mr. Bowles has this information, and these people have this information. So nothing I'm telling the court is new. So they get hired on this to do what's called a cowboy training on the set of 1883. So the cowboy training is where gun experts, that being Thel Reed and Seth Kinney, take the actors to shoot real guns with real ammunition so that they have a better idea of the recoil and how the gun is actually supposed to look, and to help them with their acting techniques. In fact, the fact that production companies do this was actually something that Mr. Baldwin pointed out to Detective Hancock during his interview. He himself has done this with a production company. So when they're through with the cowboy training camp in Texas, they've got some rounds left over. And Seth Kinney says, I'm going to take these. And Thel Reed lets him take them. So, and let me back up. When they originally went to the cowboy training camp in Texas, they didn't take all of Thel's ammunition. They took a certain amount of it, and Thel left some in Troy Teskey's garage. All of this ammunition came from the same place. This was all from basically the same batch of ammunition that Thel Reed had, that he got from a manufacturer, from an ammunition manufacturer in Kingman, Arizona, named Joe Swanson. So they take 300 of his rounds, they go do the cowboy training camp. Seth Kinney then takes the leftover rounds back to PDQ. So then what happens is Mr. Bowles begins to tell Detective Hancock, hey, you need to go execute a search warrant at PDQ because there's this green ammo can that Seth Kinney took after the 1883 training camp. Hancock, to her credit, takes Mr. Bowles at his word. She gets a search warrant. She goes to PDQ. What Mr. Bowles said would be there was there, and you've seen pictures of it. There's a green ammo can, says 1883 live ammunition. They take it. They send it to the FBI for testing. Not only does it not look like the live rounds from Rust, but it has a different chemical composition. So at that point in time, Hancock has kind of realized, I think, that she's being led down this path by Mr. Bowles that's coming from Thel Reed. Thel Reed is trying to slough everything off on Seth Kinney. So I want to show you when Seth Kinney is with Detective Hancock, what Mr. Nickus was referring to. He reaches out to Teskey because he's there with Hancock, and he says, hey, send me a photo of the live rounds that you have left over, because I'm giving her the live rounds from my green can. I think you just gave her some of them. They hadn't executed the search warrant at that point in time. Teskey says, okay, and he sends to Seth Kinney, you can see November 1st, he sends him that photograph of the live rounds that are in his possession. When you look at that photograph, and I'll blow it up for you, you can tell these are not similar to the live rounds that were found on the set of Rust.
And what's amazing to me at this point is why nobody's using Hillary Clinton's famous line. What difference at this point does it make? There's no question that a bullet killed Helena Hutchins. Where it came from, all this other stuff is absolutely just nonsense. It doesn't have anything to do with the negligence at issue. It's not like somehow there was a change in the cosmic order and this bullet just floated in from outer space and lodged in Helena Hutchins' chest. That's not what happened. And so what I don't understand is Morrissey saying, hey, none of this matters. None of this is central to the case. Even if we didn't disclose it, they certainly had knowledge of it because they brought it up yesterday. So they knew. And this is not an issue where you should get dismissed. And I want to point out real quick that if for any reason they have sandbagged here, the defense has sandbagged this, that they've known this for some time and they just waited to spring it on them at trial. And that may come out, it may not, but that's sort of what, like I said, my spidey senses are tingling on that. I do think there's a good chance that that's the case. If that's the situation, then the judge is not going to have any sense of humor about having this mini trial in the middle of the trial, all occasioned by something that the defense knew all along. We'll have to see how this shakes out. It'll be really interesting, at least on this sandbagging issue. And again, I don't know if they sandbagged or not. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they're playing it completely above board. But I would tell you that, at least among civil lawyers, Quinn Emanuel does have a reputation of playing dirty. And if they win, they do really well for their clients. But most civil litigators, most plaintiffs' counsel who've opposed them, would probably tell you that they tend to play dirty. And I think that's probably where we're going to wind up. I don't think there's going to be a dismissal. There's certainly a huge appellate issue now, but I don't think there's going to be a dismissal because the judge said you can bring in Seth Kinney and all these other people to testify on this subject, and when you do that, you're going to bring in all of the other testimony that they have for the case at the same time. So she's letting the evidence progress in the case, which I don't think she would do. I don't think she'd tie up this jury if she didn't think there might be a need for the jury to hang in there and hear the whole case. But we'll have to see. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry this is kind of quick, but I needed to get this done because this is timely and it is happening today. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments down below. Email me at the address above. Thank you so much for watching, and come on back here tomorrow. Catch me at the beach. And remember, be kind. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.